Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Okay, so I'm cracking on with the Cornell today. Customer complaint is that it's jumping up in volume, and we suspect that it starts off in a faulty state, and then as it warms up it fixes itself, and once it's in that state it will stay there for until you turn it off and let it cool down, then it reverts. So I've been through the circuit, we've measured and tested a couple of things. There are some very interesting things going on with the amp that I can't quite explain, or couldn't quite explain, but what I've got now is I've got the amp, we're scoping both the inputs to the output valves, you can see connected up there, but with no output valves installed. And so with the volume set on 6 on that input, and by the way we're driving it with a 150 millivolt RMS 1 kilohertz sine wave, we've got the purple channel is showing 10.8 volts RMS, that's the size of the signal going into the output valves, and the other side, the yellow, is 10.4. so there's a slight discrepancy there, but that's the kind of thing you expect. Now if I plug in the output valves very quickly and show you what happens on the scope as they warm up, you see that? It's all going very weird. So our purple channel has now gone up to 14 volts RMS, but our yellow channel has dropped to 7.6. Very strange. Pull the valves out, and all returns to normal. So this is the yellow channel, this valve here. Now, what happens when we when we plug in the output valves? Well, now we're bringing in the valves into the circuit, but also the output transformer. Based on that and some of the other tests I've done, I am 90 to 95% sure that we have a faulty output transformer. I've done all my tests that I can to prove that. The only remaining test is to actually fit a replacement and test that out. Unfortunately I haven't got one on the shelf, so I've got to order one, which means asking customer permission. Right, so we've just received our next batch of ELYSIUM enclosures. We buy them in from our supplier, UV printed already. So my first job is to separate the backs and the screw packets, and what I like to do is to stop them all getting scratched, just like to wrap them all up in pairs, like so. And then each enclosure will go back in its little bag, ready to be drilled and then serial numbered. Right, so another thing I wanted to show you was PR35 that we've got on the go at the moment. Started this one this week. We punch out our own IEC socket holes using a tool. I'll show you that one day. We've got the transformers mounted and the valve sockets. And we've started wiring bits in to this chassis. We like to use the ceramic sockets for the octals and the Belton style sockets for the preamps. So we started populating and wiring that chassis in. Here's the board that will go in. We've still got some flying leads and things to add to this, but that's the state of that. So the cabinet arrived for this amp yesterday, so we're not far off actually getting this one out to the customer. So we've been working on that one. Over to the Cornell for the repair. Spoke to the customer, explained what's going on. He's authorised me to get a replacement output transformer, so we'll get that fitted at some point and then tested. I'll be doing more tests today just to see if I can get 100% diagnosis on it, or just confirm my diagnosis is correct, because obviously fitting an output transformer is quite expensive, so we don't want to have to do that if that's not actually the issue, although at this point I'm 99% certain it is. So that's what's going on with that. Right, so here's all the pedals that we need to drill. When we get these UV printed, we actually get little crosses marked on the top where we need to drill, and I've got a little 3D printed jig for the holes on the top, but we're just going to drill all these out, pilot holes first, 3mm. And what I do is on the drill press I just put down some masking tape on here just to protect the underside of the pedal, because this edge is on show once the pedal's completed, so we don't make sure we don't scratch that. I'm going to try and do this one-handed. Do the rest of them. Right, so I've nearly finished drilling half the tops, but I want to show you what I do when I'm doing these with a step drill bit, and that is we hog it out to the size it needs to be. And then what I'll do is I'll just slightly touch the next side up, just like that. And what that does is it puts a very slight internal chamfer on there, which helps with deburring, cleans it up really nicely. Right then, update on the Laney. This came in last week. It's got an issue where when it gets hot, the signal completely disappears. The customer thought it was an issue with the HT fuse, but we've checked that out and it's not. There is a fundamental issue somewhere. When I say fundamental issue, what I actually mean is we've managed to confirm the customer complaint that, you know, it does go quiet, but it's not what he thought it was. I haven't spent a lot of time on it this week because I've been so busy, but I have done some more basic checks. You remember last week we suspected it was this relay here because we had signal one side of it but not the other. Now that's actually my fault. That's a mistake I made, because the schematic that we had was actually for an earlier version of this amp. I had to ring Laney to double check, but they confirmed that from 2009 onwards this amp had a complete revision, which made sense because I was trying to manually trace the signal through the amp and things weren't going where I expected them to go. So now we've got the correct schematic. I can't show you much details because I'm not actually allowed to share this, but the signal drops out when it actually reaches this board on the rear, which is where the effects loop, output sockets and things are located. It goes through the preamp, it then goes from the front board, it then jumpers over to the rear board, but it then does not emerge from this board. So I've got to spend more time diagnosing that, working out what's going on. But absolute 100% evidence that you need to be working from the correct schematic for whatever amp you're on. Okay, and finally, just an update on the PR35 for this week. Jamie's left for the weekend. Just show you the progress that he's made since last time. So we've now got the board in. We've put the pots in at the front, wired all of those in, and we've started making our socket connections on the chassis. We've still got to populate the rear of the chassis with the bits then, but Jamie likes to do that later on. I normally get them done quite early. But there you go, everyone's different. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons at the bottom. There is a notification bell as well, so you get notified when I put new videos out. I'm going to try and do one every Friday, show you what we've been doing during the week, and there might be some weekly updates too. But that's it. Enjoy your weekend.